Hey everyone, welcome back to 996. The Howl today ranking centermen over the past decade, and somehow, even though there's 4 centermen per roster, 6 defensemen per roster, I have more centermen here than defensemen. Seems like we were swapping out centermen left hand and center, pun intended, I guess. A sought after position in the NHL in general, but for the Coyotes seeking that number one centerman over the past decade, I don't think they still have found it. Maybe it's Cooley still. He has to play one NHL game before we see if he's our number one center, but I think Cooley might be it. But it took over a decade, and here's all this centerman we tried. It gets really bad after the first four players on this list to like the last four. It's just nightmare fuel in between. A caveat here: Schmaltz, Keller, Galchenyuk, Domi not listed here. They will be in the wingers video. I know Hockey Reference still lists Keller as a centerman. I don't know why. As for Schmaltz, Galchenyuk, and Domi, who did play center for Coyotes for a brief period, at the end of the day, it was just an experiment, and they are bona fide wingers now, or what they excelled at in their NHL career. So let's start with it. The big four are the first four. So we'll start with Kyle Chipchura, 6 seasons with the Coyotes. During our tank years, he was relied on as like a number one, number two centerman, but should have been and was a really good fourth line centerman, sometimes third line centerman, especially in that 2012 run to the Cup. Love Chipchura, a longtime Coyote. You know, he was best known for being a Coyote, and really liked him in those early years. Bona fide, just an A-tier player. Boyd Gordon, who had 2 tours with the Coyotes. I didn't really know this until I had to go through his stats. 3 seasons with the Coyotes, great penalty killer. Again, on the 2012 team, a perfect third or fourth line centerman. He only played 3 seasons with the Coyotes, but I feel like he's one of the best bottom depth centermen the Coyotes have ever had. He's known for a really good shift. There's a video of it, Boyd Gordon's best shift ever or something, and he blocked like 5 shots in a row on the PK. Love Boyd Gordon. Surprised he only played 3 seasons with the Coyotes. Then we'll go to Vermette, only 4 seasons with the Coyotes. Again, I would have thought Boyd Gordon and Vermette played way longer. Vermette also had 2 tours with the Coyotes. So Boyd Gordon's other team was Edmonton. Vermette's, he had a brief stint in Chicago. We traded him to Chicago for a first-round pick at a deadline, and then he came back the next season after. And then we bought him out. I'll put him in the A tier. No, I think I'll put him in S tier. We bought him out, which I think was John Scheika's first really big mistake. The reasoning was he was relying on Dylan Strome to make that big jump to be our number one or number two centerman. We bought out Vermette. Strome failed, went back to juniors, and then we just had a gaping hole at center ice. I put Vermette in the S tier because honestly, those early years with the Coyotes, especially the 2012 season, he was awesome. Really loved this guy. The fact that he came back again, only to be bought out. And then his career kind of dissipated after that. 2 seasons with the Ducks, but they didn't really go anywhere. So he should have stayed with the Coyotes and retired a Coyote. I would say that was a John Scheika mistake, but I love Vermette. One of the very few top 2 centermen who was actually good. And then here's another one, Marty Hansel. 10 seasons, a big, huge body. I'll go with an S tier. Maybe not a bona fide number one centerman. Probably a really good number 2 centerman. Huge body. He was our version of like a Kopitar, but obviously never hit the heights of Kopitar. He was traded for a first round pick to Minnesota. Ran into some injury problems and kind of fell off the map. After that, he was great in the later seasons with Max Domi and Duclair. Called him the killer D-line or the double D-line. But yeah, great 4 centermen right here. All 4 of these guys. And then it just dies for a really long time. We'll go to Robbie Klinkhammer. Everyone would probably put him in F. I loved him in the EA NHL games. Love his name, Rob Klinkhammer. Cannot get a better name than that. So just for that, he goes to B tier. 3 seasons with the Coyotes. Andy Miele, 15 games played, F tier. And then we'll go to Mike Ribeiro, who's listed us on Hockey Reference as a centerman. I don't remember if he played centerman for the Coyotes. I couldn't find that. He did sign a 4-year contract with the Coyotes, but was bought out one season later, which is why I'm a bit hazy on whether he was centerman or not. He only played one season. It was a 2013 season, the year after the 2012 run. I love this pickup. I thought Ribeiro was going to bring this team to the Stanley Cup Championship. I literally thought, I was so young at the time, I thought the 2013 Coyotes were going to win the Cup. They had Hansel, Vermette, Ribeiro, Bodker, Doan, Erad, Verbata. On the back end, OEL, Yandel, Murphy, Gormley, McCulloch, Morris, Smith and Net. I thought this was a roster to win the Cup. Ultimately, they missed the playoffs by 2 points to Dallas, and then it was a nosedive. After that, Mike Ribeiro, 4-year contract, gets bought out due to behavioral issues. I'll give him a B tier. And I still don't even know if he actually did play center or if he was a winger. My brain tells me he was a winger, but we'll never know. Then we go to Jeff Halpern. That's an F tier. 14 seasons in the NHL. Somehow his last season with the Coyotes. Barely remember him. Didn't move the needle. For me, we'll go to Bolduc, 19 games played for the Coyotes. Tyler Gaudette, 20 games played with the Coyotes, and that's all he played in his NHL career. That's an F tier. Who do we got next? McMillan. Do you guys remember this guy, McMillan? Again, I remember him from EA NHL. Not as good as a name as Klinkhammer. 72 games played, 9 points. F tier. This is just really bad crop of players here. Shinneman, 12 games played. F tier. If you guys like one of these players, God help you. Arcabello, okay, getting a bit better here. I remember we got him in a trade at the trade deadline, and then he just kept scoring. 9 goals in 27 games played for the Coyotes. I thought he was pretty good acquisition at the trade deadline. I don't think he remained with the Coyotes after that. We'll give him a B tier. Just, I think it was honestly hilarious, and we were all just dying of fatigue to how bad this era of Coyotes were, that it was just funny that he kept scoring goals, and he was a trade deadline acquisition. Sam Gagner, 1 year with the Coyotes. He still plays in the NHL, which is unbelievable. He played with Winnipeg last year. How is this guy not retired? I remember Don Maloney signing him, just like that ERAT deal, tried to do something, but these players were way past their prime, didn't really play well at the center position. I'll give him a C tier. Better for sure than these crop of players, but not as good as these three up here. Jordan Martinook. Here we go. It's starting to get a little bit better. Give him an A tier. To me, I think Martinook is the equivalent of Michael Stone, who I thought was going to be a long-time Coyote, played a long time here with the Coyotes, 4 years, fan favorite, just like Michael Stone. We all love Stone, and then they get traded, and then they stay with that team they're traded to pretty much for the rest of their careers. He's had 6 seasons with the Carolina Hurricanes now. He's a fan favorite over there. He was a really great 3rd or 4th line centerman for the Coyotes. I wish we hung on to him, but he left, found a new home in Carolina, and he will be remembered as a Hurricane instead of a Coyote, just like Michael Stone will probably be remembered as a Calgary Flame than a Arizona Coyote. Joe Vitale goes to a B tier. He broke his face in a fight, and that's all I remember of him. He gets a B tier. For that, Burmistrov, I had no idea who was on the Coyotes. 26 games played. That's an F tier. Holland, 40 games played. F tier. I remember him more as a Maple Leaf than an Arizona Coyote. Tobias Reeder. So like Ribeiro, for some reason, I think of him as a winger. Was he actually a centerman for the Coyotes? Hockey Reference lists him as a centerman. Tobias Reeder, I loved him. He only played 4 years with the Coyotes. I thought it was much longer. Great on the penalty kill. I think it was his first game, first NHL game. Did he score 2 goals? Or they were 2 shorthanded goals? Mine's a bit hazy there. He was involved in one of the best trades in Coyotes history. He was traded for Darcy Kemper. I liked Reeder. I'm not sure if he was a centerman. Hockey Reference listed him as a centerman. I don't remember that. But give him an A tier. I love Tobias Reeder. His career, again, took a nosedive after the Coyotes. I believe he went to the Edmonton Oilers, and then not sure what happened after that. Then we go to the guy who shall not be named, Laurent Dauphin. A running joke on my channel. I just don't like this guy. For some reason, still finds his way on the Coyotes. I think he's been traded away and has come back to the Coyotes like 3 times now. It was rough. It was nightmare fuel to watch him play last season. But I think finally we have enough good centermen where we should never see Dauphin in a Coyotes jersey ever again. I would put him in F, but I know he's better than this group of players here. And, you know, he's only played with the Coyotes. He's had 1 season with the Montreal Canadiens where they finished last place. So this guy just plays for bad NHL teams. Must be tough for an NHL career. I'm being way too hard on him here, but poor guy. Just wish he was part of a different team than the team I cheer for. Here we go, Christian Dvorak. Finally, an S tier after all that. After from Marty Hanzal, we finally get back to an S tier. And Christian Dvorak, I have no idea what's happened to him in Montreal, if it's injuries or not using him properly. I agree. We did rely on him as a number 1 centerman, number 2 centerman, where he's actually a pretty good number 3 centerman. Played above his weight. He played really well with Connor Garland, sometimes Taylor Hall. I don't really remember him playing with Keller as much. I feel like they're on opposite lines most of the time. But I love Dvorak, an amazing penalty killer, a great defensive forward centerman. And he had a sneaky shot. You know, he used it sometimes. Some clutch goals here or there. But I love Dvorak. Traded for a first-round pick. Again, another great trade by Bill Armstrong. The Tobias Reeder trade was made by John Shaika. Dvorak's an S tier. Dylan Strome, the project, the centerman project that we hung on to for so long, trying to see what he would do. We all thought he would be that number 1 centerman. Big, tall, highly sought after, drafted 3rd overall after McDavid and Eichel. Just never came to be with the Coyotes. Going to be a C tier. If I was a really mean guy, I'd put him in F tier. But we tried. He was traded for Nick Schmaltz, which I think was a great trade. Another great trade by John Shaika. We'll put him in the C tier. He should have been an A or S, but never lived up to his potential in the Coyotes. Then we go to Ryan White. I'll put him in the B tier. I love that he fought, had great tenacity. I remember on the dad trip, his dad gave a finger to a fan. I believe that was in San Jose. Great energy. Really liked him. Great fighter, like I said. I don't think he won too many fights, but at least he fought. You know, not a lot of Coyotes used to fight in this era. We have Vitaly, who broke his face. Put Ryan White right next to him. Nick Cousins. I liked him on the Coyotes. I'm going to put him in the B tier. That, you know, Rick Tocchet era, use him as a 3rd-line centerman. Sometimes he was 2nd-line centerman. I liked him. Unfortunate, he moved on from the Coyotes and never really came back or never really had good things to say. Just kind of vanished away from the Coyotes. Went to Nashville, Florida. Not really sure where he ended up now. Who is this? Mario Kempe. Gonna put him in an F tier. Never reached his potential like his brother Adrian Kempe. He was a fast player, but could not put it together. That's an F tier. Brad Richardson. Gonna put him in the A tier. Saw him sort of like an older veteran player, like above Martin. What am I trying to say here? He's a veteran type. He's a veteran player like Martinuk, but he was older and a veteran. 3rd line, 4th line centerman. Amazing penalty killer, along with Carl Soderberg. They had great years, or with Michael Grabner. Liked Richardson. I believe he came for 2 tours with the Coyotes. Really late in his career, he came to the Coyotes and won a cup with the LA Kings in 2012. Liked him on the Coyotes, loved him. Great, solid depth centerman. One of the bright centermen we've had in the past decade. Oh man, who is this? Zach Ronaldo. I'm sure a lot of people don't like him. I'm gonna put him in the C tier. I don't hate him enough to put him in F tier. He wasn't like a waste of time, and when I thought of him, I didn't throw up in my mouth. So I'll put him in C tier. Derek Stepan. I'll put him in A. I think he belongs here with this group of A's. We acquired him to be a number one center, but then immediately maybe he had one good season and then was never a number one centerman. Dvorak was playing above him in the lineup. I think he played a lot with Clayton Keller, which is why I remember Keller not with Dvorak. Maybe he was playing too much with Stepan. But yeah, we acquired him with Ranta for 7th overall, Leish Anderson, which didn't come and bite us in the behind. Stepan, just his career plummeted immediately after joining the Coyotes. Hung around as, I guess, third-line centerman, but we never really had the center depth to use Stepan as a really good third-line centerman. We weren't deep down the middle and maybe relied too much on Stepan, but his career nosedived, so it wasn't really a good balance or match. Vinny Hinostroza, A tier. I honestly, again, don't remember him as a centerman. He might have been a winger, but, could have been a centerman. We all loved him. Fan favorite, speedster, still hanging around the NHL, I believe, with Buffalo. Had some skill, some flashes of skill. Put him in the A tier. Not enough there for me to put in the S tier. Who is this? Jordan Wheel. Please, let's get out of this era. Michael Chaput, go away, please. Barrett Hayden, gonna put him in the A tier. I loved what he did last half of this season last year. If he could put that production and quality of play that he had in the last half of last season into a full season, he will be an S tier guy. I love him. I root for him. I think in the future, he could be a third or second line centerman if Geeky progresses to be a second line centerman. I hope he stays on the Coyotes. We just need to be really good down the middle. And we've all seen the brilliance of Hayden last half of last season. If he could be a third, second line centerman, and then we still have Cooley, Geeky, McBain there and insulate. He's a great, talented player with a lot of skill, a great shot, had great chemistry with Keller and Schmaltz. Just please, please, please continue that for a full season next year. Carl Soderberg, put him in a B tier. Big, huge body. All I remember him for is being a great penalty killer with Richardson and Grabner. He didn't have the speed, and the game was kind of going towards a more speed and skill game, and Soderberg was just a big guy. Didn't play with a lot of speed or skill. Played hard along the boards. I think that's why the line of Soderberg, Richardson, and Grabner worked well, because Grabner was a speedster. So Richardson had some sneaky speed, but not the fastest guy. But Soderberg just went in the corners to dig pucks out. Derek Brassard, I believe only one season with the Coyotes. Put him in the C tier. Didn't really move the needle for me in Bill Armstrong's first year as GM. I think he was in that shortened 2021 season. So only 56 games we've had for Brassard. John Hayden, just a pure fighter. F tier for him. Don't remember much of him. Tyler Pitlick, going to put him in the C tier. I'm surprised he hasn't come back to the Coyotes. He's been available in free agency for like a couple years now. I actually liked him on the Coyotes. Thought he played well. A good penalty killer. Some sneaky skill up front. But, we lost him in the expansion draft to the Seattle Kraken. I just thought he could have stayed with the Coyotes a couple more years and could have used him as a good third or fourth line player. Travis Boyd, put him in the B tier. He kind of died off last season. He lost his center ice position between Keller and Schmaltz to Hayden. The year prior to that, 2 years ago, he had a great season with Keller and Schmaltz it just worked. You could not separate them. But he's got some skill. He signed a contract with the Coyotes. I think we're getting into his last year of his contract this upcoming season, and then we'll probably move on from him. But a good B-tier centerman, not as good as the A-tier centerman here. Dzingel, C-tier, never really thought he reached his potential with the Coyotes. He's good for like flashes of games, but can't put it together for a string of games of like 30 to 40 games. McBain, are we going to go with McBain? Who's this? Who are you? Who is this guy? We'll do Riley Nash, first. C tier, really good at face-offs, but not much else. McBain, I'll put him in the A tier. I think he's got sneaky skill, goes to the front of the net, not afraid to drop the gloves. I love this season last year when Bukestad, we'll get to him next, left at the trade deadline. He filled in that second line spot with Michelli and Krause really well. I think he's got a bright future with the Coyotes. Hopefully that contract negotiation didn't sour his relationship with the Coyotes. I think we have him for 2 or 3 more years. He signed that contract a couple weeks ago. So I just hope he stays with the Coyotes. I think he's a really good depth centerman that we could rely on if we have an injury. Just because he's not a second line center or first line centerman doesn't mean you trade him. We need that depth down the middle, which we haven't had in over a decade. Just like, we had Hansel, Vermette, Ribeiro, Chipchura. One of those guys gets injured, you replace him. McBain as well. He could jump up in the lineup. 2 more here. I think we ran through this pretty quickly. Nathan Smith, C tier. Hasn't reached his potential yet. Hopes he gets it together. And then Bukestad. We'll go to A tier. Just because it was so unexpected that he fits so well with the Coyotes between Michelli and Krause. He loved Arizona. The fact that he came back this offseason we're currently in to re-sign with the Coyotes for 2 more years. Hopefully he plays with Michelli and Krause and they have that same sort of magic to give a really good third-line offensive threat. Big-bodied. I think he's okay on face-offs. Maybe he needs to be a bit better, but we hired a new face-off coach. Loved him. Really unexpected. Did not expect him to be a second-line centerman last season, but he fit like a glove. Fan favorite. We all like him. Think he's a really good B-tier centerman. So that's it for centerman. I don't think there's any controversy here. Maybe someone would put Hinostroza higher. Maybe Reeder. Maybe Hayden, Martinook, Richardson. Maybe Chipchura. Okay, I could see some arguments. Not enough S tiers here, but to be honest, the center position for the Coyotes for the past 10 years has been their worst position. Strong in goaltending, some sneaky good defensemen. They have really good wingers, but centermen, there's just a lot of centermen here who did not move the needle at all. And hopefully moving forward, we have a lot more good centermen moving forward. And we finally, hopefully, have that number 1 centerman in Logan Cooley moving forward. So that's it for me. Thank you for watching. If you like what you see, spread the word. And as always, thank you for your support.